Hey there, Pharmacy Nation, Pharmacy Podcast Network. I should say This Week in Pharmacy, but this is kind of like our what
Pilot.
did I call it? Pilot,
Mhm.
our pilot, and I get to do this live with the one and only the Pharmacist Coach, Dr. Christina Fontana. Um, so glad that you're here in person in the studio. And like I said, we're exercising, getting ready for this next show, This Week in Pharmacy. You have to come back when we actually get it up and running with our graphics and everything that we're working on. But it just goes to show you that nothing will ever be perfect. So don't wait to
Mhm.
do something if you're planning to do something. Like, just do it, just
Yeah.
start working on it.
Yeah.
This is a prime example of us. You're helping me. So I appreciate you not only being here, but we have to talk about this year. We have to talk about what's going what's going to happen in 2023, not only for our profession, but for us as individuals, because you and I have a very similar plateau in our careers. And now it's time, with all of the fundamentals that we've worked so hard to achieve, it's time to go all the way up. And I know that we always say that, but literally it is. It's time for us to take this to a different level. So welcome.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And plateau. I mean, you are always going all the way up. So yeah, I just want to celebrate you and everything that you've done. This beautiful studio you've built. We finally got to go to Pickers Pub.
I know.
After.
Pickers Pub in Brownsville, Pennsylvania.
Yep, it was delicious.
It it's a small little town. It reminds me of the personality of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was a trodden,
Mill
worn
town.
out town,
Yeah.
and it reinvented itself. It went from a steel industrial revolution town in the mid and early 1900s through mid 1900s, and then kind of started collapsing when the steel industry collapsed in the 70s and 80s. And then the 90s and 2000s were nothing but growth for Pittsburgh. And I I've I'm like that underdog guy. That's why I'm a Steelers fan, because it's always seems like an underdog play, especially this year. They're definitely the underdogs. And but you and I share that attitude that we're fighters, and we realize that we're never going to achieve what we know that we're capable of achieving unless we do it and we find the strength internal to do it. And that's what you stand for. That's what you talk about as a coach and as the pharmacist coach. So I want, if listeners, if you don't know Christina, this is a special opportunity to kind of preface what you're doing and what you're going to be doing in 2023.
So I love how you started with it's called the inner locus of control. And that's actually something. So I talk about like nerd moment. I've been doing a lot of research about entrepreneurship and pharmacy and how colleges of pharmacy are starting to really see the value of entrepreneurship. And so that's actually one of the things that was identified in the research around what is a successful entrepreneur. And it is that they feel that the inner locus of control is where you feel that you have the power within you to create the outcomes in your life. So entrepreneurs have a higher inner locus of control, which I think is just really interesting to start to learn about all these things, because I mean, you and I think it's innate, but I also feel that pharmacy students, pharmacists in general, can actually become entrepreneurs. So that's something that I definitely want to talk about today is, a lot of people come to me and they're like, oh, well, I don't know enough. I wasn't residency trained. I don't, I'm not enough. Right.
Right.
And so my goal is to really empower. I've actually kind of expanded even beyond women in pharmacy, pharmacists in general, to let you know that you actually have so many gifts that you can bring out and use in your business. So whether it's functional medicine or pharmacogenomics or health coaching, whatever that is, my goal is to help you get your inner power out into the world, because you can have all of the knowledge, you can have all of the things that the clinical expertise, but if no one knows it and you can't get your message out there, then you can't impact your patients.
It's
And
true.
so that's really the mission behind part of the mission of this healers in healthcare movement that was started all from this book. So I know you have that cool technology to be able to show the book. So moving beyond the counter, elevating into heart-centered healthcare through entrepreneurship was a vision. And I want to speak to this because I think that back to what you were saying about, it really is a lot about your confidence. And yes, it's not going to be perfect. Like my first YouTube video, if you go back and see, it sucked.
Yeah.
It was
Mine's out there too.
it was in my crappy studio apartment with pink walls
Yep.
in Brooklyn, New York. But you have to just start. And so we're at the beginning of the year, you know, everybody is like, okay, new goals, new me, all of that. And I also want you to know that you don't have to be perfect. I'm certainly not. I've messed up so many times. I can tell you story after story after story. But I think back to the entrepreneurial principles of really what makes a successful entrepreneur. It's confidence. It's having that believability in yourself. It's being able to collaborate, to innovate. Which I can look at you, and I'm going to just highlight your brilliance right now. That's what I see in you is you're always looking to help other people. You're an innovator, you're a risk taker. And so those are some of the things, you know, as I've dug into the research of what makes a successful entrepreneur, that's what it is.
Yep.
And I believe that those skills and attitudes can be developed. There was somebody on LinkedIn that was like, oh, like I don't, you know, pharmacists aren't risk takers. I really want to challenge that point because I really think that, okay, number one, it's more than being an entrepreneur is more than just taking risks, right? That's one factor. But when I graduated 10 years ago, that wasn't even a discussion that was had. So that's part of the other, you know, facet of this healers and healthcare movement is I want to be having those conversations with colleges of pharmacy on podcasts like this to say, okay, maybe, you know, I was lucky enough to have a father who was an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Maybe you didn't have that role model, but I want to be that role model for somebody out there so that they know it's possible. I've literally gone from being homeless, having eating disorders, having a failed engagement, all of these things that have happened, these traumas, but I've also been able to have the resiliency and the persistence to keep going, even though the path was very rocky.
Right.
And so no matter what you're going through right now, if you're just starting at square one and this is something that's on your heart for 2023 to become an entrepreneur, I want you to know that those skills and attitudes can be developed. You can learn those things. And that's really, really the bigger vision for me is to really empower pharmacists with these entrepreneurial skill sets that I know, you know, I've cultivated over a lifetime. I worked for my dad for, you know, probably 20 years and then went into a residency, health coaching, started my own business and so on and so forth. But, you know, I want you to just start. I think that's such a great piece of advice.
Yep. Yeah, you do. You have to just start. I do want to reference the book again, and that is because you gave me a chance to share some of my vision, and in doing it through writing. And that's not my comfort zone. Has always been podcasting since 2009. Whereas the book, you know, it gave me an opportunity to take my thoughts and my beliefs and who I was and why I am who I am and where I am right now
Yeah.
because of my upbringing, just like yours. So, unlike your dad, my dad had every molecule and capability, a charm, good looking, amazing with people.
Yeah.
He had the ability to become one of the top real estate moguls in
Florida.
Orlando, freaking Florida. It says it in the book.
Yeah.
And it basically at the time where Florida was on fire for like business. And it was the 70s. It was the mid 70s. And in Orlando now, of course, look at what it is. And he didn't want to take the chance because he didn't have the confidence in
Yeah.
himself, and he reverted back to being an electrician. Nothing wrong with being an electrician. He's a very good one. But I'm taking a chance in doing what I did in order to have an impact on not only my industry, that my profession that I love so much, and pharmacists that I believe in, that believe in the camaraderie and the togetherness. But more important for me is a legacy that I get to leave to my kids.
Yes.
Because I don't want my kids saying, oh, if my dad would have just become a publisher, or if he would have just built his business instead of always keeping it a side
Safe,
hustle.
or playing it safe.
And I
Yeah.
think the side hustle, let's give a shout out to the tiers. So you say, I want to start a business, just like Christina said, start it, right? Next level, I have a side hustle, but I want to grow it into my only thing.
Yeah.
Do it. Like, you have to keep forcing yourself to do the next thing.
I think that the desire has to be bigger than any fear. And that's what I see a lot in, the women that come to work with me. And I still have fear. I have, when you grabbed when you said, "Oh, come talk in front of the dean of WVU," I was like, what? I have,
Shout out to WVU School of Pharmacy, Dr. Petros. You were awesome.
yeah. And who's the other guy that was
Mark
yeah,
Garofoli,
Mark.
Dr.
Marky G.
Dr. Marky G, the pain guy.
Yeah,
He
the
he
pain
actually
guy.
trademarked that, the pain guy.
Wow.
Yep.
And he was making fun of me. He goes, "Oh, you're the pharmacist coach."
That's
I'll have to
right.
make fun of him now.
You're the pain guy.
Yeah. So what were we talking about? I got
Well, that's
distracted.
just it. It's our ability to believe in ourselves and then have impact on others. So my impact on my network, on my hosts, on people that I amplify is different than yours, but it's the same too.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing as the pharmacist coach, is you are teaching pharmacists to get rid of all of these non-scientific, well, some of it is scientific, very much evidence-based, where they're talking about what holds you back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all psychology, it's all these things that we grew up with. Yeah.
Yeah, I use a lot of different tools, and I do this work because I was there too. My dad was an independent pharmacy owner. He wanted me to take over that business. It would have been the safe choice to do, but instead I chose to pursue a residency. I got kicked out of my house because of that choice. And my entire life was blown to pieces pretty much. And I had to start from nothing. So I've been able to build this business over the past 10 years, but it was that drive that I just really never wanted to feel like I played it safe. I didn't know I wanted to be an entrepreneur back in 2012, but I knew that I wanted to make an impact, and that desire was the seed in my heart that kept me going, that kept me making those crappy YouTube videos and trying and trying and trying and failing and having to go back to pharmacy and all of those things that led to where I am now. It comes down to persistence, and you have to have the desire. You have to be willing and open to collaborate, to invest in yourself. I've invested over $300,000 in myself beside
The pharmacy.
school. Yeah, and I continue doing that because I want to keep getting better and better. I want to be a pioneer in this industry. I want to be that person that some younger pharmacist is like, "Wow, look what's possible for my life." And then they go and pursue their dream. So I want to be that embodiment, that model for younger pharmacists, or, whatever. I'm not age discriminatory, but pharmacists in general, to know that this is possible. So that's the bigger vision.
It is. And I also think that it helps the collective. So, we were talking at lunch about women empowering women. We were talking about pharmacists empowering pharmacists. We were talking about the profession doing more for pharmacists in order to help them make this transition.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to NCPA and ASCP and ASHP. You have to realize it's all part of growth, and in growth is discomfort.
Mhm.
The associations now have to realize that pharmacy, from the payment models to the roles to what they're doing um in coaching, in life coaching, right? Wasn't even a thing 10 or 20 years ago.
Mhm.
These associations have to start purposely supporting the consultant pharmacist that's out there building their own practices in their own communities. Maybe you're a weight management or lifestyle management
Mhm.
pharmacist. Maybe you're working with psychologists and you're a psychotropic kind of psychologist pharmacist. Maybe you're a pharmacist that literally goes to the gym with your clients and actually helps them to work out, but now you're backing in pharmacology and the mixtures of the right vitamins. And
Mhm.
but regardless, you have to get out of your number one, you get out of your own way and stop holding yourself back, but surround yourself, which is another thing we were talking about at lunch, surround yourself with people that that have that like-minded push. Don't hang out on the Reddit boards where it's just negative, 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 negative. Don't accept, Phil Cowley, known as Phil's My Pharmacist on TikTok, right? Dr. Robin Barrett, who's one of the biggest fitness stars, as one of the leading pharmacists in fitness. These people had to start somewhere, and they
Mhm.
had to believe in themselves to keep going. Now, Phil has over 1.5 million followers. Dr. Barrett and I, we're going to be doing things later this year just to amplify what she does. She's building her own fitness business, and it's all based on an app. And it all comes back um, to her making a decision in her life that she wanted things to be different, and she believed in herself enough to make the first move. You have to make the first move. Like,
Yep.
you literally have to make the first move. What do you start, by the way, Christine? If you're like, if you're counseling or talking or coaching one of your clients, and they're like, well, what do I start?
So I'm able to, me, I'm highly intuitive. I'm able to look at someone within the first 5 minutes. I can feel into their blocks. So, as an example, what's blocking them from actually even getting started? It could be perfectionism, imposter syndrome, people pleasing. There's a bunch of different things. Procrastination is a big one because there's a payoff to it. So if someone procrastinates, then they actually don't have to be seen, right? And then they don't have to get criticized. There's usually a trail of these unconscious fears that are keeping someone gridded in their current reality as a pharmacist because it's safe, because they're afraid to fail, whatever that is. So I would be looking at that first, because once that's cleared away, it's like when you're in traffic, right? There's all of these cars in the way. There's a lot of resistance. Once that traffic is gone, you just move forward. You can get to your destination. So I always look, that's really where I start with pharmacists, to be honest, because a lot of them have taken health coaching certifications. They're functional medicine pharmacists. They've done pharmacogenomics, whatever that is. I can look at you and say, okay, this is what needs to shift in order for you to accelerate your path to actually being profitable and to creating an impact and to leaving a legacy like you talked about before. So I look at both the energetic components of the transformation, but also I can see and dive into people very quickly. This is your gift. This is how you can start to communicate your brilliance out to your audience, so that you're not just saying, "Hi, I'm a health coach. I'm going to help you to lose weight this year." You're speaking to the deeper transformation. I'm going to help you release subconscious blocks that are actually keeping the weight on you that you might not even see for yourself, whatever that is. But I'm able to kind of help them channel, okay, this is what you can offer, this is your magnetic messaging, and really help them to establish I call it a masculine container, like an offer or a program or something like that, because you need to have both of those parts, the energetic transformation with strategy and systems, which pharmacists are great at, right? We're
Right.
very analytical, but the energetic part is really where I think a lot of people get caught up in self-sabotage, or they never start, or they start but then they have to go back to pharmacy. I've seen it all. So I think it's really, this transformation work is the bridge between your current reality and where you want to be. That's what I always tell people.
There's also a balance specific to the pharmacist. You and I, once again, we were talking about this at lunch, and that is, having the ability to, you've already made the investment in your PharmD,
Hmm.
push it and go see where you can push with this. And then if you're passionate about pediatrics, or you're passionate about weight management, or you're passionate about something, maybe a board certification, a specialty, then go for it. But stop thinking that you're going to educate your way to success,
Hmm.
because you've invested in your $200,000, $300,000 degree, your PharmD. There is nothing keeping you from being successful with that. Now, once again, if you're passionate about, you know, another specialty, then by all means get your specialty. Go get your certification in pharmacogenomics, or
Yeah.
go get, but don't think that that is whole. It's never it If you think like that, it'll never be enough. You're going to have degrees, unless you want to go into academics, and then that's a whole nother thing. And by the way, keep going. Like, if you do want all of those
The
letters
name.
after your name,
Yeah.
then go for it. But make sure that it's cyclical, that it's providing you value, and it's fulfilling your mission, and it's fulfilling who you are. Don't make that who you are, because it's not. Those letters at the end of your name aren't you. It's not Christina. It's not. I have a bachelor's of science in business administration, and I'm running the biggest podcast in the world dedicated to our pharmacy profession. People have always asked me, "Oh, I thought you were a PharmD." I never said I was a PharmD. I wish I was a PharmD. It's kind of like a little, kind of. I mean, just to be in the club.
You're a pod D.
I'm a pod D. That's what I
Yeah.
say. But this didn't, my education catering to one of the highest educated individuals in the healthcare ecosystem. You guys are my heroes, and I'm not even half as educated as you are. But I'm not keeping that from me not doing this.
Yeah. Well, like we kind of said, and I'm very direct. A lot of people do hide behind, and I did that years ago. I was like, oh well, I need to hide behind, my PharmD and my certifications and all of that. And I'm not invalidating that certifications
me
don't
either.
mean anything. I'm just saying, for you to really connect with your clients, and for you to be visible out there in the world, and really communicate who you are and what you stand for, it requires that deeper level of knowing yourself and healing through a lot of the programming that we've had. I mean, I'm speaking to women right now, being dismissed, having our voices quieted, having to, kind of suppress who we are because, you're in a community pharmacy and you can't leave. It's a lot of suppression. And I feel like that is my, speaking about the bigger mission, my purpose is to bring more light to this profession, because there's so much dysfunction. There's so much that I think needs to be fixed in the healthcare system, but it starts with us as individuals. Yep. And that's who I want to reach. I want to reach the people who want to release this programming, the beliefs of, oh, I can't because someone else is doing it. Well, no, you can, because if the desire's in your heart, then you're meant to do it. You're meant to carry it forth. But I think the biggest thing is self-sabotage that holds people back. And that's really what I love diving into, especially at retreats, and being able to say, okay, this is what's happening, and move through. I have a lot of different transformation tools that I use, but to bring out of them their light, the love that they have in their heart. But you can't, if you have armor around your heart, you can't actually connect with people. You can't form collaboration. So that's the deeper work that I do, because when you come from love and you build a business like you have from love, integrity, and intention, that's when you make a real impact. It's not about, I mean, yes, degrees and all of that is important, but it's how are you using your love in the world to really make that impact?
It's true. Yep. And I see that coming from many of the people that have used our platform to push their content through. Some of them, majority of them, I think of Dr. Monica Krishnan, who is known as the mental health pharmacist, and she really tackles mental health and how it affects millions of people throughout the country, and how that's a facet of pharmacist opportunity to grow in that specifically. But when she talks on her podcasts, it's never about evidence-based studies or journal reviews, even though that's extremely important. It's about getting away from the mental and emotional barriers that we all have in order to be a healer for other people.
Yeah.
Because how are we? And I really like what you said, Christina, about the industry. How can we expect the industry to change if we're not changing individually?
Yeah.
Because it starts with us. I'm one brick in the wall.
And really, it's an awakening. When you awaken to your purpose, then that's when you're really living. And that's how we create a domino effect in the world. Because if I can help Marina Buksov to speak her truth and to bring out more of her light, then she impacts more people. Then the domino effect continues. And that's how we really create change in the world. I can't control everything that happens. I can vote for the president. I can do different things, but I can't control everything. So what I can do is show up in my gifts, in the gifts that God gave me, and help as many people as I possibly can, putting my voice out there to hopefully inspire people, listening to this or watching my YouTube videos. And that way they awaken to their truth and why they're here.
Yep.
Because I think that as pharmacists, we feel like we have to be in this little box of like, well, I have to be this way and I have to wear the white coat. And I threw out my white coat. I mean, like, no offense to anybody else, you can feel free to do what you want. But I just feel that, when you're moving into entrepreneurship, you have a unique frequency, a unique expression. So bring that out. So if you're saying to yourself, oh, well, Christina's already doing that, or so-and-so's already doing that. No, you have a unique soul signature. You have a unique spin on it, whatever your topic is, to be able to create a sustainable, profitable, impactful business.
Right.
So,
yep. So what are you planning to do for 2023? Are you able to I want to hear more about the Healers organization.
Healers in Healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that actually kind of came through based upon, it started really with this book. I got a vision. God dropped a vision in for me back in May of this year. And I got this vision for an entrepreneurial book, and to bring a bunch of pharmacists together to share their stories. And kind of back to what we were talking about before, if you are desiring something, most likely someone else has created it, or someone maybe has a facet of what they've been able to create. Seek out people who have already created what you're wanting. Like people in this book, I have 19 incredible pharmacists who everything from financial coaching, spiritual coaching, life coaching, whatever you want is in that book.
Yep.
And so I realized that I want to be exposing my community to more healers in healthcare, because I really genuinely believe that as pharmacists, we got into this profession to help people get off medications, to help them feel better, to comfort patients, to provide, a place where patients can come and get advice from pharmacists. And I think that coaching is the perfect segue for pharmacists to be able to use those skills, to be able to monetize your knowledge, make an impact on your patients, improve patient outcomes. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. So that's what I want to be putting out, is I want to capture the healer in healthcare, the nurse, the pharmacist, the physician assistant who maybe just doesn't know how to translate your brilliance or your knowledge into offers, into a business. Maybe you have blocks that are holding you back right now. So I created a monthly show where I'm bringing on different, people like Lauren Castle, Marina Buxoff, Blair is going to be on, my client, Katie Wood, bringing on different people for the first half of the show to share about, okay, how have you been able to monetize your gifts? What does this journey look like for you? And most likely somebody in my group is going to say, oh yes, Marina, I wanted to start an herbalism business. Okay, go reach out to Marina, because I can't do it all. So that's the bigger vision for me in 2023, is creating a network of people that I can refer people to. I'm having Brian McElderry on. We're talking about leveraging business credit. I want to grow. I mean, I guess it's maybe a spinoff of a podcast, but it's a show, Healers in Healthcare show, which is a Facebook Live. But for the first half of the show, helping to show, hey, this is what's possible with your PharmD degree. Here's a person who did XYZ. And then the second half of the show is going to be me teaching a specific high level training on whatever it is. Like we just did owning your confidence, or overcoming fear, whatever that might be, because I know that people are struggling with this. They just have nowhere to go. So they're trying to do all the strategy. They're trying to just push through and make themselves and force themselves to do, to do a Facebook Live or whatever that might be. But they're not realizing that their trauma or past experiences, or being invalidated, or, having to go through these experiences in community pharmacy or hospital where you had to put your head down and just work. You didn't have a voice. You didn't have an opinion. Well, I want you to know that you do have an opinion. You do have a story to share, and bringing that out through your business to make an impact on other people who are struggling with the same thing.
That's awesome. If someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
God, I could just keep talking all day. I'm like, oh my God, it's over. It's over already. You can join my Monetize Your Magic Facebook group. That's where the Healers in Healthcare show is. You can connect on LinkedIn, Christina Fontana, Instagram at the Pharmacist Coach, or just find me. Just Google and we'll connect.
Thepharmacistcoach.com.
Yes. Yep.
The THE, thepharmacistcoach.com.
Which you gave me that handle.
I know. I remember that.
So it's actually pharmacistcoach.com.
Pharmacist Coach.
Not the.
The
Because that was
pharmacist.
taken.
See, now we're mixing you up.
Yep.
It'll be in the show notes, the link, but Pharmacist Coach. Yeah. And if you Google Pharmacist Coach or on link on Instagram, you can find Christina out there too.
And our new video.
And our new video that was out last week. Yeah. If you didn't see it, don't worry about it. You didn't miss anything too crazy, but we did a TikTok and an Instagram. So while you were here in the studio, like, why not?
Yep.
Right. Hey, a shout out to Blair. Did you notice Blair Thielemeyer, Dr. Thielemeyer, when she said your name, she said Blair. Like, she didn't even.
There's no need.
There's no need to say Thielemeyer. It's just
we all know who.
We all know who Blair is in the pharmacy profession.
Yeah.
And there's an example, by the way, before we go quickly, someone who literally did it, right? Grew her business from the ground up, all the strategy and everything that she did. But now she's reinventing herself. Her and her husband now have a chicken farm.
Yeah.
And they're blowing that up during a time where chicken or eggs are like $6 or $7 a dozen. And now she's going to a fresher, better raised, what do they call open range chicken? And I mean, now they're building another business.
Yeah.
And she's not giving up.
Incredible. We love you, Blair.
We love you, Blair. All right. Well, it's awesome to have you here at the studio. Want you to be back for This Week in Pharmacy when we get together a Pittsburgh band of pharmacists that come down, and we're going to do a living room studio. Right now, this is the one-on-one studio, but we have a living room studio too.
Nice. We'll do a little panel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for everything that you do as pharmacists. Anything that we can do for you, please reach out to the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I'll put you in touch with Christina if you can't find her, but I know you'll find her. And we're out. See you later.